is the worst story that you could think about from your career?
Oh, worst story. I would have to say, all in all, it would have to be the staff assaults, and it has to be there's two different kinds. There's gassings, where the inmate gasses the officer, where he puts, and most traditionally they'll take from their breakfast a little milk carton like you would get back in elementary school, fill it with urine, feces, blood, especially if the inmate knows he has a infectious disease.
Oh,
It's not just that material in and of itself is nasty, carries a lot of bacteria, and then tries to throw it through the door, either if it's perforated or if it's a solid door, through the side of the door, and gas the officer and try to get them with that material, feces, urine, spit, saliva, blood. That's a certain level of a disgust, to be in. And then there's the other one where it's just physical violence, like seeing that officer who was beaten. Now, those are definitely tough days. There was a situation where there was a large staff assault on this facility where I worked after my shift. During my shift, the yard is out and you have multiple inmates, hundreds of inmates out on the yard split in half, and you have one building utilizing yard, another building on the other side. So 2:00, I go home. Next thing I know, yard goes in at like 3:15, 3:30, and before 3, there was a huge staff assault. So I hear about it, and then turns out that a lot of that staff were injured so bad that they had to go to the local hospital in town. And I was involved with the union at the time, and I actually went to that hospital to check on the staff, and kind of let the other people know in the union of what had happened and what's going on. There was an officer whose mom is a nurse, and he was actually stabbed in the head, and you do a lot of superficial bleeding in the head, and he was just covered in blood. And this is what I had seen over at the hospital. So I go in there, and I grew up with the guy, went to school with him, even though he was a couple years, above me in grade, in age. So his mom was on duty at the hospital. She comes in, and I see him. He's like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm okay. His mom comes in, sees him, immediately goes out the room, and she's crying. And he's right there, and he's like, "Ernie, is my mom crying?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so not only did the guy have to deal with the fact that he was assaulted at work and hurt at work, because of his job choice and the situation, his mom is now, even though he's okay, outside in the hallway, outside his room, bawling.
Yeah.
So it's not just, it's physical and emotional in that type of job. And then the only reason that the violence stopped was because we had an officer that transferred from another institution, was in the control booth, actually shot and killed one of the inmates. And that was the final thing that quelled everything. And he didn't know that inmate had died. So I'm over there trying to protect his rights as for the union. And I'm talking to the guy, and he's kind of out of it, and he's getting checked. He's got, things going on. I don't want to get involved with his health situation, HIPAA laws and all that now. So he didn't know that the inmate had passed. And so when he started hearing us talk about it, he's like, "Oh, the inmate died?" And I was like, "Yeah, the inmate died." And you can just see his facial expressions went blank, and he just went flat. And he was, dealing with the process of the fact that, he did his job, he did it well, and it was what was needed, but it didn't take a life.
Yeah.
Even though it was on duty, he killed somebody. And to see how that was going through, how he was dealing with that, even though he was dealing with his own medical issues at the hospital.
Yeah.
So that could be one of the worst times, is not only just a staff assault, but a staff assault at such a level that you had multiple staff hurt. You work with these people, you become like friends, and some like family. And how do you feel when you see a family member hurt? Those are the worst times.
Yeah. So I asked you about the worst. What do you think about